Welcome. This is the Basics to Stay Healthy series. This is the first in a series of videos, Protection from Germs, addressing the coronavirus pandemic. This video is designed for all ages to view. The information is not designed to condescend. If some of the content does not apply, please do not feel insulted. This is a from the ground up in ABCs that everyone should know. It is safe for kids, really. You may have to be reminders of do's and don'ts. There's no more music or clips from someone else's video in here. The vision for a dramatic film might have been had. Of course, content changes all the time as new developments are found out about. It is not the right time to do elaborate entertaining because we don't have time to put it in the film and you don't have time to sit and watch entertainment that distracts from the points that we're trying to bring across. Music background, dramatical historic moments, footage of martial arts legends that helped us to where we are now and gave us information about healing. All that can be placed on the back end, put in a trailer of some sort, but they won't be in here now. Neither will pictures of the Revolutionary War and highways being developed and race cars going around the track. All of that later. Time is of the essence. What is being distributed in this video could be life-saving information, and viewers should be able to see it immediately without distraction of entertainment. We're going to start off with some basic definitions in the framework of the coronavirus pandemic. The reason for that is pretty evident. Understanding what it is being fought is going to help us win the war. During this video, and probably others that are going to follow it, we're going to make a lot of analogies to the warrior. Okay? We're fighting a war against coronavirus. Okay? So let's draw on here a piece of paper. Warrior on one side, coronavirus on the other. Okay? So here's our warrior. Here's our coronavirus. Looking at it from the top down, it looks sort of like this. Alright, so understanding how to fight coronavirus, which is microscopic in size, and in any given area, there are millions of these viruses in a particular place. Understanding includes how the process works and what the combat techniques are and how they work and why they work. Okay. In order to understand what it is we're fighting, when someone explains what's involved in that process to fight, they're going to probably put some big words in front of you. Right now, we're going to look at several of these big words and break them down into some simpler terms. We're going to start with novel coronavirus. Okay, so you have novel, then you have coronavirus. Okay. Basically, novel has two meanings. A well-known meaning is a long, usually fictitious story, like a book or a novel you read. Okay. So, we'll have our little book here. Let's say it's got 300 pages or so. Okay. That's not really the kind of novel that we're talking about here for novel coronavirus. Novel in the medical virus language and also English language use basically means new. New means in the science community where you have powerful, well-funded institutions that have large microscopes and thousands of web pages on their websites. They haven't quite discovered what the cure is yet, or at least they didn't let the public know what the cure is yet. So that's why they're calling it new. That's what new means. Okay? So it hadn't been announced yet for everyday Joe, and so therefore they're calling it novel coronavirus. Theoretically, 10 years from now, another coronavirus is discovered. They don't know the cure. At that point in time, they'll call it the novel coronavirus. All right. Coronavirus comes from Corona viridae, which is a scientific name for a family of viruses. Okay, so we're looking at now this aspect. Coronavirus. Okay, as we just showed you, looking top down from a microscope, it kind of looks like a crown. And as a matter of fact, from an etymology standpoint, that's basically where it comes from. So you have a family of different kinds of viruses in there, all called coronaviruses. Okay? There's a particular one that's been identified in late 2019, and that's the one that we're concerned with here. Now, perhaps because coronaviruses affect the respiratory system in humans, that respirators that protect the respiratory system are being called upon to be used. Okay. So let's explain what a respirator is. Respirator, similar to novel, has two meanings. Meaning one, meaning two. Okay, it's meaning two that we're concerned with here. The first definition is a device that helps the process of artificial respiration. A respirator might be seen with elderly people to help them breathe. The second meaning of respirator, relevant to the pandemic, is the kind worn to keep particles out of the nose and mouth. The objective, to protect the respiratory tract, like construction workers wear when there's lots of dust and debris. It may also look similar to a surgical mask worn by doctors in a hospital. However, the two are often distinguished as separate products. A respirator may have rubber bands connected to it and worn around the head. When you hear or see on the news 1 million respirators are needed for one city, that would be a pretty expensive operation if it was the kind of respirators that the elderly have. 1 million respirators that look like little white masks that go over the nose and mouth might be more logical, as a person might go through 2 or 3 of them in a week's time, making the number of persons that use them down to about 330,000 persons for a week, covering the population of a small town, for example. Pandemic. Pandemic sounds close to epidemic. The demic part stays the same. Pandemic means it is around a lot of geographic land in the world. Epidemic means widespread. Pandemic usually has connotations that it's global or international. Coronavirus can be both an epidemic and a pandemic. Pandemic may be used to describe the coronavirus discovered late 2019 to emphasize that it's a global situation. Contract. Contract has two meanings. The famous meaning, using football as an example, is a paper or document or agreement working out the details of how much a player is going to be paid, for how long, and so forth. Another meaning in the virus framework is the verb to contract a disease. It's similar to signing a contract in that it involves getting something. However, a person does not have to sign anything to get a disease. Contracting a disease means to get the disease. Quarantine. To quarantine, which sounds similar to a chemical or substance, might be suggestive of going to the doctor and receiving an injection with a chemical with a name that sounds like it. But actually, it simply means to stay by yourself for a while, so as not to infect other people. If you hear on the news the self-quarantine, it simply means to stay in a confined area for a while and avoid being in contact with others. Incubation. This refers to conditions that are maintained around a subject trying to grow. So in this case, we're talking about a virus, like coronavirus. Okay, so you have the virus is similar to a little ball, and then you have the region around that ball. Okay, that region around the ball has to cater to the ball so that it can continue to grow. So incubation, at its basic meaning in the framework of coronavirus, means conditions are maintained around the subject that's trying to grow that allows that subject to make that grow.
We're going to talk about the spheres
To defend ourselves, as in defend ourselves from the coronavirus. So let's take a look here. This is in the effort to get a stronger understanding of what we're dealing with, not so much trying to explain every aspect of it. We're going to start with a very basic inner to outer chart. Starts with an individual, works its way out to the people around that individual. So you have a person here, then let's say you have the family members that live around him or her. And you continue working your way outward. Eventually you get to local town, city, state, national, and of course global, which is equal to the pandemic. Okay. In many circumstances, the fight against the virus on a very practical, moment-to-moment level that's always going to be there is going to be the individual.
going to take a look at now body areas to protect. The body areas that could act as channels to the interior of, let's say, the rest of the body are commonly accepted to be major points to fend from the intake of viruses. Alright. So we'll use the yellow here. Okay, so basically you have your human, okay, head, ears, from here on up, body, above the legs, and legs below. Okay. Most folks know about the mouth. Most folks know about the nose. So you have your virus. Okay, this is your virus incoming in all kinds of directions and all kinds of ways. Alright, so folks get a respirator and cover their mouth and their nose. So that's your respirator there. What about everything else? Hands. Some folks use gloves to protect their hands. Now, the concept behind protecting your hands using gloves is that the surface, if this is the palm, can be exposed by contact on surfaces that have the virus. Okay, in much the same way, so can the bottoms of your feet. Okay, so protection from coronavirus extends beyond just hands and nose and mouth. Okay, you've also got feet and ears, which of course have the hole which can enter into the body. Ear infections although maybe not prevalent right this moment, over the years have occurred to numerous people, especially children. Okay, so two critical points, if anything, is that ears and bottoms of feet could be vulnerable to germs in general. It's common sense not to walk around in bare feet. A lot of folks like walking around in bare feet during the summertime. It's common sense not to walk around in bare feet in places where it's suspect to have a lot of germs. So if this is the ground and you're walking around on bare feet, then there's trash all over. There's discarded gloves and masks and who knows whatever else, and you're walking around in bare feet. There are possibilities of getting sick through this route. Ear infections might be a little bit different. I'm not going to go too much into that. I do want to mention that sometimes hair on the body could absorb certain types of maybe not dirt, but matter that wouldn't be ideal or considered clean for longer periods of time than other parts of the body. Okay, so hair is on the checklist, ears is on the checklist, and feet are on the checklist. Mucous membranes, such as the eyes, is also cautioned, especially in terms of putting non-gloved hands or hands that have been in contact with germy areas onto the face, because the germs, if these are the germs here, your hand makes contact with that germ, those germs can go from your hand and on into the eyes if your hand makes contact with the eyes. I want to discuss a concept about defenses. Okay, so you've got your body here, and you've got multiple kinds of defenses. Okay, so this is the body. You've got your defenses against not just viruses, but against a number of different kinds of germs and viruses throughout the course of any given day or year. It's similar, and this is going back to the analogy of the warrior. It's similar to one man in battle back in the days of hundreds of thousands of years ago, where shields were the only protection. Okay, so if this is your warrior, and all he has is a shield to protect himself, and he is in battle fighting against multiple warriors on the opposing side. Okay, so you have warrior 1, 2, 3. Okay, you can see where one shield, unless this warrior is extremely adept at fighting, if there's 10 others that eventually make their way, that at some point he's going to take some licks and slowly wear the body down, and it starts to become weaker. It's breaking down this person's defenses. Same concept. If you're walking around, let's say, consistently with bare feet, you haven't done the standard due diligence of washing with water, clean clothes, bare feet, breathing bad air, breathing bad air, bad nutrition, that eventually this body is going to wear down, and then when coronavirus arrives, the body is not nearly as strong as it was initially with all these defenses, or what it could have been with all the other comparable defenses. Okay. It might not be coronavirus that's the blow that causes defeat, but a combination of many other germs and viruses that weaken the body. Then coronavirus is one more blow. The lesson learned is to minimize exposure to germs and viruses in general.